Russell, we're headed up to Blackpool tomorrow. How does the coronavirus pandemic affect your travel plans when it comes to doing these long away days?
Well, everyone has to wear their masks on the coach. We've tried to change our coach, but there's not a suitable one available. So a lot of people are suggesting travelling two coaches, etc. But the cost then becomes really, really high. So everyone has to wear their masks, do what we can. Some of the staff have been travelling up in cars just to limit the number of people in coaches, myself and the coaching staff included. But again, that's not ideal. So yeah, it's just changing things, and everyone's having a room on their own when we get there. Usually, obviously, they room in pairs with their roommates, but they're having a room on their own, just in case. So it changes all that, and then the dinner times, etc., has to be staggered and make sure not everyone's together. So yeah, it changes things a little bit, but it's everyone's got used to it by now and adapted to it.
Well, I think that's you know a fairly easy thing to have to cope with, isn't it? In the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I think everyone, whatever walk of life you're in, you have to adapt to different situations at the minute and stuff we're not been used to previously. So I think, yeah, for us in terms of the footballing world, the football environment, it's the same for everyone. It is different. It's not quite the same, but we have to get used to it. We have to adapt to it, and we have to make it work. And you have to find a way to work. What I would say is this club, with the sports science, medical, etc., Andy Cullen, the way they making sure everyone's looked after, and the strictest protocols in place, to the point where guys are obviously here in separate dressing rooms now because they can't all be in the same dressing room at the same time. We've had to change our meeting room and make sure that's social distance. We can't use our lecture theatre, all that sort of stuff. They've really been hot on it and made sure that everyone is really adhering to it, and the players have taken big responsibility for that themselves as well, wearing masks around the place and making sure they are in the separate dressing rooms when we're back here. So just doing everything we possibly can, doing it right to prevent anything. You know, sometimes you can't help because obviously everyone's got a life outside of it as well. But in terms of when they're here and when they're with us, everyone's being looked after as well as possible.
Let's talk about football then. You've mentioned individual errors have cost your side a lot recently. How do you go about eliminating those? Because it's not like it's something that they'll actively work on making mistakes, is it?
No, and it's frustrating. I think a lot of the players are frustrated themselves. And listen, it's not always been individual errors. The crew one was completely on us as a coaching staff for the way we set up, the way we sort of thought what we would come up against. And to be fair, you know, the crew management team spoke about after they completely changed what they'd been doing for our game. So we had a look at that, we worked from that, and we took ownership for that. So, but yeah, and sometimes, unfortunately, you know, as a player, as an individual, you have to take responsibility. You have to be accountable for what you're doing when you're on the pitch. And I think my frustration after games has just come because of when we've really focused on something and we give a lot of clarity to people, and then sometimes, and honest mistakes are always going to happen. That's why I'll never come out and you know, publicly say, because mistakes, they're not intentional. They are mistakes, and they're honest ones. We haven't had a player who's dropped a runner and they've let him score or shown not enough aggression, etc. They are at the minute, unfortunately, lapses in concentration. And it seems to be we're being punished. There'll be other times during the season where we won't be. As I said to you before, we are. If we were getting completely pinned back in our own half, in our own final third, and getting dominated and loads of chances created against us, there'd be a real worry. But it's not that way. We've conceded the least amount of shots on target. You know, I think we're near enough the least in the league, or one of. So defensively, we press really hard. We win the ball back really quickly. So that's why it's so frustrating that when we give teams very little, we're still conceding the kind of goals we are. It's a real frustration for us all. So we have to keep working on it, and we have to make sure that when we send people onto the pitch, they're really ready for what's coming, and that's on us. And then once they're on the pitch, it's up to them. So we'll keep working on the players. I've said to you before, trust everyone and believe in everyone. And now it's up to them to make sure that they repay the trust and belief. And ultimately, if you cut out the mistakes, the team stays the same. We win games. The team stays the same. They stay wearing the shirt and being a starter. And that has to be their motivation with the quality and the strength in the squad now.
mean, that's a good point actually. None of the goals have come from, you know, the passing out from the back sort of style. It's all been issues either further up or set pieces, isn't it?
Yeah, so I had to answer this question with Sky Sports on Tuesday night, and I was asked, was told that the team's really good to watch, but maybe the passing out from the back is too much. But it's if you watch us, you watch the game, it's not the case at all. And I probably got a little bit spiky about it because I have to make it clear we are not doing it for vanity purposes. We are not doing it because we feel like we should play out from the back. We are doing it really aggressively. We are doing it with purpose. Our goal the other night, the first goal, is from George Williams in our own corner flag, playing a pass. It starts there. So many of our chances last season, this season, they come starting with Lee Nichols in goal. It gives us a certain amount of control over a game. It's something we really believe in, we work really hard on, and it gives us so much more reward than it does anything negative. So I feel really protective about that, and I feel that if someone only watches us for one game or watches a few little clips where, now and again it's going to get a little bit scary, of course, I understand that, but you have to watch the whole game and not one incident in isolation, or you have to watch 2 or 3 games to understand that actually the players do it really well, and they do it. It takes a huge amount of responsibility and a huge amount of there is pressure because teams are desperate to stop it. So they do that with unbelievable belief, and I watch them with unbelievable pride when they do it. And as I said, it gives us an identity, it gives us a certain amount of control in the game, it gives us a lot of chances at the opposition goal, and it keeps the ball away from the opposition and stops them getting close to our goal, which is backed up by the evidence. So just unfortunately, when they do get close to our goal at the minute, we end up conceding too many. So we have to sort that out. So it's not the plan out from the back that's a problem. I know you haven't just said it's the problem, but I'm getting a bit spiky again. But because it is. I feel protective of the players with it, and I feel protective of what we're trying to build. But we have to, and the players do as well, and we have to make sure we justify what we're doing with results. And I know that, and they know that. And then eventually, when you win and you continue to win, doing what we are doing, which I believe will come eventually. I said to you all along, it will take time. I don't know how long it will take, but I believe in that 100%. And when we do it, it stops people asking questions about the playing out from the back, because that is not the problem. That is not the problem.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you there. Someone who I saw on Tuesday night, who I haven't seen in probably 2 years, was Stephen Walker. Now, he looks bigger, he looks wider, he looks like a man all of a sudden, doesn't he? How important is he going to be, do you think, and how much has he changed in the week that you've seen him?
Yeah, so he's come back a man, basically. He was a boy when he came in the first time round. He's come much more mature, physically and mentally. The frustrating thing is he couldn't train, and we couldn't bring him off the bench on Tuesday because we didn't get his COVID test back in time. So we thought he'd be available, and he was right at the last minute, but he hadn't trained. He hadn't done any work apart from video. And he didn't feel quite ready. He had a bit of a neural problem in his back by the time the game came around, because he just hadn't done anything for 5 or 6 days. So it was frustrating for him, frustrating for us. But he trained Wednesday. He's got a little bit of way to go with his fitness because he hasn't played very much. But he looked really sharp, really strong. As you said, he's come back completely different. So I'm really excited to see Steve, and I'm going to have to push him and make him work really hard and realise the importance of what we do out of possession as well. But he'll be a good addition for us. It's completely different to anything else we've got.
Blackpool then on Saturday. It's obviously a long journey that we've all got to go up there and cover. But the scene of Don's last away win, and I'm sure you'll be sick and tired of us asking about that day.
Yeah, it's a while ago, isn't it? The frustrating thing is, the frustrating thing is I played in it and we weren't great. So they had a lot of the ball, a lot of chance. We ended up scoring 3 really good goals on the counter and a set piece. And I wasn't actually that happy after the game. I didn't think we played particularly well, but it was a really good result, a good win. They're a completely different team. I really like the way they play. They've obviously got really good managers that's come from a great club who do things in a certain way, and they try and they look quite like the Liverpool team that you see. So he's obviously been highly influenced by that. But yeah, the frustrating thing for me is we've had some brilliant performances away from home and haven't got the results that we should have. So we have to get over that line. We have to get over that at some point. Obviously, we won. We beat Stevenage away the other day. Portsmouth, great performance away. We should get more. And then the other night as well, it wasn't, we weren't far off. So it's coming. And we need to, as I said, we need to make sure home and away, we are us. We do what we do, but we need to find a way to have that killer instinct and pick up 3 points away from home. I know that. Everyone else knows that. It's not going to hide away from it. So we need to make it happen. And it's a really good opportunity for us Saturday to bounce back. We had a great result at Gillingham. And we need to make sure now we follow up the Oxford one, which was disappointing, with a win, building up to 2 home games next week, which is going to be a really important period for us.
Are you surprised to see them down at the other end of the table?
Yeah, I keep saying this to you, but I really don't believe they'll be there. They're a bit similar to us. They've had a lot of change in personnel in terms of their players. I think they're one of the only clubs who have done more than us in terms of bringing in players and releasing players, etc. So that takes time and a new manager. So if you look at them as well, statistically, etc. So the evidence suggests that they're not going to finish where they're anywhere near where they are now. And having watched them, they are a good side. They carry a real threat. And I'm sure he's still ironing some creases out that he wants to work on, and some things that they're still tweaking and adapting. So they are a good team. Their league position is, for me, is a bit false at the minute. The same as Oxford's the other night. Let's get it right. I spoke to Carl after the game in depth, and he feels similar to us, and he's watched us as well and says exactly the same about us. And he also said it about Blackpool because he knew we were playing them at the weekend. So as I said to you, the league will take shape properly in the next 5, 6, 7 games. I'm sure of that, and probably not even fully until Christmas. And strangely enough, speaking to him on Tuesday night, that was their best start under him since he's been there. So they maybe start a bit slowly, but I think when you play a certain way and you like to have the ball like Oxford do, like Blackpool do, I think teams who have a bit less of it are really fresh at the minute. They have players who are really willing to work and run hard to fight and get the ball back and to stop you having it easy. I think that energy slowly dwindles as the season goes on. And I think things change a little bit once you've won a few games and you hit your straps a little bit. I think the team's mentality changes a little bit. And again, we played a team on Tuesday night who completely changed to stop us. And he said that after, he put his ego to one side. And I thought he was brilliant after the game. He was really honest how he spoke. And they focused on stopping us because they were aware of the threat that we had. So we have to overcome that, and we have to get used to that. And we have to make sure that we find a way and find an answer when teams do that. But I'm pretty sure that Blackpool will really have a go themselves in possession, and we need to be aware of that threat and make sure we stop that and try and impose ourselves in the game and make sure we try and control as much of it as possible.
Nice one. Thanks, mate.
No problem. Thanks, Toby.